I never imagined that a millionaire could change two lives forever at a Father's Day party. The sun dipped low, casting golden rays over the neatly trimmed lawns of Lindholm Estate. The laughter of well-heeled guests mixed with the clinking of glasses, as I stood amidst the frenzy, heart pounding in my chest. I was just a simple son eager to make my father proud, yet I felt like an outsider among the polished elite. I can still feel the way the air tasted that day tinged with damp grass and something sweet wafting from the dessert table. The aroma of barbecued ribs danced in spirals, each curl wrapping itself around the nerves that knotted in my stomach. I caught sight of him then, the millionaire, the man everyone whispered about like he was a myth. His name swallowed in shadows and admiration. Was he godlike? Or simply flawed like the rest of us? My father was standing there, his weathered hands clasped tightly around a plastic cup. He beamed, oblivious to the unease swirling in my heart. I wanted so badly to impress him, but the echoes of grandeur all around felt suffocating. My father, a humble mechanic, carved his realities into the grease-stained walls of his garage, while I stood lost among suits and shiny shoes. Each laugh ricocheted off my insecurities like a bullet. Desperate, I tried to blend in, cracking jokes I didn't fully understand, smiling at faces that felt like masks. I stole glances at the millionaire. He moved effortlessly through the crowd, a true king with an aura that pulled everyone to him. They were drawn like moths to a flame. And I was just the candle, flickering in the dark. But then I saw a flicker in his piercing eyes, a glimmer of something real. Did I imagine it? He caught me staring, and suddenly the laughter drowned out, replaced by a thudding silence. His gaze locked onto mine. It was electrifying. My heart raced. What did he see? Hope? Desperation? And then everything changed. A loud crash punctuated the tension. A waiter dropped a tray, shattering wine glasses like dreams on the floor. My breath hitched. Anger flared from the millionaire's lips, sharp like the shards of glass. But then he turned, his expression softening as he caught sight of my father, me hero. Let's turn this around, he declared, and just like that, all eyes turned to us. Had we, the overlooked, singled out? I felt my father's grip tighten around me, a protective anchor. My body trembled, anticipation coursing through me. What was going to happen next? But the air felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken words. What did it mean? Why had he focused on us? Hope and dread fought within me, battling in the silence. Could one man, with his endless wealth, really change the course of our lives in a single moment? The weight of expectation hung between us, thick and suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling I was standing on the edge of something vast, something that could either lift me high or plunge me into darkness. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension hung in the air like a summer storm, heavy and electric. I could see the millionaire's face, a study of complex emotions as he surveyed the crowd. It was as if time had momentarily stopped, and in that suspended second, my thoughts spiraled wildly. What if all his charm and power were nothing more than a facade looking to mask an underlying emptiness? And could I bear the weight of whatever expectations drifted into the air with the shards of the wine glass? As whispers rippled through the crowd, I searched my father's face, hoping to find reassurance in those warm, familiar lines. He seemed unfazed, his eyes glimmering with a kind of pride and wonder I rarely saw. The millionaire slowly walked toward us, a smile breaking through the tension. "You," he started, pointing his index finger directly at me, causing a wave of surprise to wash over my body. "You must be the brave one who works hard for his family, huh?" Before I could respond, the laughter erupted again as guests joined in, the sound ringing hollow against the drum of my heart. My father's grip loosened on my shoulder but remained a steadfast anchor. "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree," he said, chuckling slightly, giving me a nudge of encouragement, but inside, the clamor of doubt drowned out his voice. The millionaire, noticing my hesitation, approached closer. "You know, it takes guts to stand out in such a crowd. Not everyone can wear their hearts so openly." His words rattled me. They were both a compliment and a challenge. But then I felt exposed, vulnerable. "What do you mean?" I managed to utter, and even the vulnerability in my voice surprised me. "I can see it," he said, leaning in deliberately. "You want more for your life. You're not afraid to dream big, even when your surroundings seem impossibly grand." The sincerity in his voice sent a chill down my spine. Did he really see me? Was I not just a shadow amid silken fabrics and polished skin? But before I could swallow my disbelief, an unexpected rumble shook the ground, and the breeze shifted. It carried with it the scent of rain, dark clouds rolling in like a cascade of unprocessed emotions. Just as quickly, the laughter faltered, uncertainty creeping in. The guests turned their eyes to the horizon, mumbling about the storm, glancing at their watches as if the weather might sweep them away in an instant. In that brief moment of distraction, my resolve shifted. "You're right," I concluded blindly, a sudden rush of clarity hitting me. "But I'm scared. I don't want to be lost." My words trailed off as the crowd began to disperse, moving towards the approaching storm rather than each other. "We all have fears," the millionaire replied, his tone softening even more. "It's what you do with that fear that defines you. And sometimes, embracing the uncertainty is the beginning of something extraordinary." Hope flickered within me, igniting a spark that pushed through the doubts. But before it could grow, the first drops of rain plopped onto the manicured lawn with steely sounds, striking a dissonance against the quiet we had created. I looked away, feeling the presence of the people around us drift further away, their laughter and conversations fading in the growing storm. My father, sensing my inner turmoil, placed a steady hand on my back. "Let's get inside, son." His voice was a familiar balm, but part of me hesitated. I didn't want to follow. What if this fleeting moment with the millionaire held the key to everything I ever wanted? Just as I stepped forward, the millionaire's voice cut through my thoughts. "Wait, don't let this storm wash away your opportunity." Turning around, I felt their eyes on me, father's gentle curiosity, and the millionaire's intensity. The storm offered a choice: to step away from comfort or remain tethered to all I knew. I took a shaky breath, weighing the divergent paths stretching ahead of me, and before I could think rationally, I blurted out, "I want to learn. I want to know how I can change my life." The moment hung in the air, thick and palpable. The millionaire regarded me, his eyes piercing through the chaos, revealing a flicker of something akin to admiration, or maybe even something more, a challenge, perhaps? I braced myself for his answer, but then his phone buzzed harshly in the quiet. With a quick glance, his face dropped, panic splintering across his features. "I need to take this," he said hurriedly, stepping back as if our connection had fractured with a single alarming sound. "Stay right here." His words felt like an echo, lingering, and then he vanished into the crowd, leaving me standing amid the storm of my own making. My father looked at me, confusion lacing his voice. "What was that about?" I don't know," I stammered, the air feeling alive with unfulfilled possibilities. The storm swirled above us, and I sensed my life was teetering on the brink of something significant yet filled with uncertainty. I could feel the millionaire's absence weighing like an anchor. Did he have plans to return, or had we missed an opportunity that could have lain before us? And then the rain poured down, an unforgiving deluge, washing over the grass and the crowd, and I pulled my father close as the world twisted into wild chaos and uncertainty. As thunder cracked overhead, the chaos of the gathering morphed into a whirlpool of confusion. Guests scrambled, seeking refuge under awnings, umbrellas sprouting like mismatched flowers against the torrid downpour. My father instinctively pulled me into his sturdy embrace, an anchor in the whirlwind of uncertainty. Yet each thunderous roll resonated with the anxiety that gripped my heart. Would the millionaire come back? Had I just let the chance of a lifetime slip through my fingers? "Let's go inside," my father urged, his voice barely registering over the clamor of raindrops pelting the roof. I nodded, still transfixed by the swirling crowd, a bevy of laughter mingling with panic. Each footsteps muffled as clouds concealed the sun's warmth. The party seemed to wilt under the weight of the storm. Reluctantly, I allowed him to guide me inside, past veils of silk and collared suits that now dripped with rainwater. As we crossed the threshold, the atmosphere changed, shadows of laughter undermined by the flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. Guests were in various states of disarray, their polished appearances dulled by the weather. I watched as my father's comfortable presence began to draw me out of my daze, allowing for the undertow of apprehension to recede just a bit. Yet I still felt the pull towards the exits where I last saw the millionaire. What was it about him that ignited a longing within me? I had stood on the precipice of something vague and exhilarating, and I wanted desperately to delve deeper. What doors might he unlock for me, and would they lead to the life I had been yearning for? "Let's get something warm to drink," my father suggested, sensing the turmoil brewing beneath my surface. We found our way to the bar, an island of perspective within the stormy chaos, where glasses clinked and the rich aroma of coffee battled the mustiness of damp clothing. He handed me a steaming cup, the warmth radiating through my fingertips, yet it did little to soothe the fire ignited in my soul. Moments passed. Guests congregated, their chatter a blend of mundane concerns and laughter that danced like flickering candle flames against the encroaching darkness. But there was no sign of the millionaire. My heart pounded wildly with doubts that escalated with every passing second. He was losing him, along with the chance to change my life. Then, something shifted in the midst of the crowd. A figure emerged from the crowd, tall and commanding, still somehow magnetic, glistening droplets cascading down his tailored suit. The millionaire had returned. My pulse quickened, a mix of excitement and dread weaving through me as I stood rooted, unsure of how to approach the moment that seemed so vital. This was my chance. Yet uncertainty wrapped itself around me like a cloak. He looked relieved, his eyes scanning the room until they settled on me, filled with a complex brew of curiosity and urgency. "I'm sorry for disappearing like that," he said, his voice piercing through the background noise. "Some things couldn't wait. But I wanted to find you again. You have something to say." Unprepared for his direct approach, I felt my mouth dry. "I was hoping you could teach me," I stammered, the weight of my words apparent in the dim light. "Teach me how to make my dreams a reality." He scrutinized me with an intensity that left my breath suspended. "Dreams, huh? What makes you think I possess the keys to that door?" "Because," I replied boldly, "you know what it's like to want more, to reach for something greater. I felt that outside." I gestured, hoping to convey the urgency filling my chest, the longing for more than the life I had known. "I don't want to be lost anymore." His penetrating gaze softened slightly. There was recognition there. But just as the tension seemed ready to ignite, a commotion erupted from the corner of the room. A woman's voice, high-pitched and frantic, cut through the ambient chatter. "I can't find my phone. No one has seen it." Attention shifted, and I felt my connection with the millionaire slip for a heartbeat, the moment stretching taut-like. The drawn bowstring of someone waiting for the right moment to release. Instead of following the crowd, I noticed the terror blooming on the woman's face, and instinctively felt the need to assist. "I'll help you," I called out, rushing toward her, a glimpse of empathy illuminating my own turmoil. The bustling crowd thinned around us, revealing the stark reality of a world that moved on, while emotions surged inside me. Was this what I was meant to pursue? Not just dreams for myself, but extending kindness toward others. Here, in this fleeting moment of connection, I could offer warmth to someone else battling storms that perhaps mirrored my own. As we searched feverishly through bags and tables, I felt a pair of eyes on me and turned to find the millionaire watching intently from the edge of the crowd, his expression inscrutable. There was a quiet sorrow there now, unless my hope was projecting too much. Then something unexpected happened. The woman suddenly beamed, clutching a shimmering device with trembling hands. "Found it. Thank you." Her relief weighted down the air between us, and I noticed a raw undercurrent of joy I hadn't felt in a long time. But just as I turned back toward the millionaire, the walls that filled the room seemed to shift with dread. A loud honk sounded from outside, and a sudden commotion broke loose. My eyes caught a glimpse of the driveway flooded with police and emergency vehicles. There were murmurs, frantic voices pointing toward the entrance, where people were now gathering with a mix of shock and concern. "Something's wrong," my father said, worry skimming his voice. My heart lurched, sensing that the tension surrounding us had grown thicker than the storm outside. I looked back at the millionaire, his eyes now dark, filled with an unpredictable weight that echoed across the expanse of uncertainty. Unease washed through me, spinning my thoughts into chaos as Annie, the woman, pressed her hands against her heart, the disbelief painting her features. The tension thickened, spiraling around us, adding another layer to my swirling emotions. "Stay here," the millionaire commanded, and in one swift motion, he stepped toward the entrance as if pulled by an invisible force. I felt an instinctive urge to follow, to comprehend the storm brewing within and outside the venue, but as he turned and vanished amongst the throngs of guests, I knew the calm before the storm was about to break in ways we never expected. As the crowd grew more restless, anxiety rippled through the room like electricity. My father instinctively pulled me closer, his grip firm and reassuring but unable to shield me from the waves of uncertainty washing over my entire being. The atmosphere became thick with whispers, questions that no one dared to voice yet hung heavy in the air. "Everything's going to be okay," he murmured, even as the tremor in his voice betrayed his own unease. I clutched my cup of coffee tightly, its warmth diminishing as the reality of the situation settled around us. The once vibrant chatter dwindled, replaced by the low hum of anxious murmurs and the occasional frantic laughter that felt forced and out of place. I turned again, hoping to catch a glimpse of the millionaire, to find solace in those penetrating eyes that had sparked something within me. But he had disappeared into the burgeoning crowd that gathered at the entrance. The flickering lights overhead cast shadows on the faces around us, transforming familiar forms into strangers fueled by concern and dread. "Do you think it's serious?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, not entirely sure who I was posing the question to, my father, or perhaps even to the universe that seemed to have spun out of control in a matter of moments. "It could be nothing," he replied, though I could tell he was grasping for optimism. Just then, a cacophony erupted from the entrance. A voice rang out commanding, urgent, clarifying that it was indeed not a trivial matter. "Anyone with medical experience, please step forward." My heart raced. The storm outside was no longer the only tempest threatening to engulf this evening. Whispers surged among the guests, and I felt a chill dance along my spine. Without thinking, I turned and ran toward the swelling crowd, seeking a way to console the uncertainty brewing around me. The cries for help echoed in my mind, drawing me closer to whatever awaited at the doorway. As I joined the throng, I caught fleeting glimpses of someone on the ground unconscious, surrounded by frantic figures attempting to assess the situation. A knot twisted in my stomach. Fear had a way of unearthing emotions previously buried deep, and suddenly, the weight of my yearning for something greater seemed trivial against the backdrop of panic unfolding around me. "Is anyone a doctor?" they were asking again. I pushed my way closer, the air thickening as dread seeped into my bones. I had no medical expertise. I couldn't help in the way they needed. But even as the realization sunk in, my heart clung to the idea that perhaps my empathy, my desire to help like I did with Annie, could mean something in moments of unprecedented chaos. Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I saw the millionaire making his way through the crowd, urgency etched on his features. There was a calm assurance in his demeanor, as if he were capable of bridging the vast chasm of anxiety that had engulfed us all. He kneeled at the side of the unconscious figure, a man I now recognized as one of my father's friends. Time seemed to slow, each exaggerated heartbeat echoing in my ears as I watched him take charge. "This man needs CPR. Clear the area," he commanded with an authoritative confidence that sent waves of shock and reverence through the gathering crowd. Despite my fear, inspiration surged through me, watching someone rise to the occasion while I felt a mere spectator in my own life. The guests parted, and in that moment, I was reminded of the longing that had driven me to approach him earlier, to seek out wisdom and guidance for my dreams. But what could I dream of now, watching as life hung precariously in the balance, the reality of mortality highlighted in stark contrast to the glittering facade of wealth surrounding us? I was torn between running toward the scene or stepping back, afraid my untrained hands might do more harm than good. My breath quickened as the millionaire leaned over the man, his lips moving in quick, practiced motions. He grabbed a bystander's phone and shouted, "Get an ambulance here now!" A single thought pierced through my chaos. This was a defining moment. As the millionaire fought against the current of despair flowing through the crowd, I recognized the raw power of agency, his power, perhaps to touch lives in ways I couldn't yet understand. What if I could learn from him not just about chasing dreams, but about being present in life's most haunting moments, extending kindness when it seemed least expected? But all that hope shattered as I watched the paramedics finally rush in. Hope and fear threaded together as they began to assess the man on the ground. I couldn't tear my gaze away from the face of the millionaire, his determination unwavering yet shadowed by a flicker of something deeper. What weight lay behind those eyes that had drawn me to him? Then, out of the corner of my eye, amidst the crowd gathering closer, I noticed a familiar face. Envy twisted my stomach as I recognized the woman standing there, someone I just couldn't place. She gave me a subtle nod, an unfamiliar knowing glimmer, and then spoke quietly to the person beside her, just loud enough for me to catch a few words. He never told her the truth. My heart skipped, confusion overtaking me in waves. What truth? The urgency faded from my surroundings as those 3 words echoed loudly in my mind. The millionaire, drenched in purpose, was yanked into a world I had only glimpsed, a world layered with complexities I was not ready to touch. I felt like an outsider peering in, powerless. I took a step back, grappling with the tumult within me. I found my father once again, his warmth a fragile balm against the chaos swirling around us. As we shared a silent look filled with worry and confusion, the shadows loomed larger, underlining their truths. This storm was only just beginning. The room grew heavier, secrets intertwining with our lives, hanging like rain clouds over our heads, threatening to drown us in revelations we might not be ready to confront. An endless ache in my chest settled as I clung to my father's arm, both comforted and consumed by the impending disaster that felt so close, yet so utterly beyond our control. We stood there, mere spectators unable to change the course of events unfolding in front of us. The millionaire continued his efforts, breathing life into a moment hung in delicate balance, while the crowd held its breath, every shared heartbeat echoing the inevitable fear of loss. "Dad, who is that woman?" I murmured cautiously, my eyes darting back to the stranger whose cryptic words swirled around in my mind like a tempest. I needed to understand the hidden truths, to decipher the secrets that seemed to layer themselves onto this evening's events like the velvety black sky that loomed overhead. "Her?" he questioned, following my gaze. "That's Sylvia. She's a friend of the family. Just don't worry about her. Right now, we need to focus on helping Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders. The name anchored me in a feeling of desperation and helplessness. The realization struck too late. This gathering had been about celebration, yet now it was about survival. My heart sank as I looked back at the man lying unconscious, feeling the weight of life teetering on the edge of uncertainty. "Why does it feel like a storm is brewing around us?" I muttered, half to myself and half to my father, wishing for answers that were swiftly growing elusive. Because sometimes, that's just how life is. His voice hovered, laden with wisdom earned through years of facing his own storms. "But remember, even in storms, there are moments of light. I wanted to believe that, yet the darkness inside me felt overwhelming. Somehow, I could sense that this night wouldn't just end with unconscious Mr. Sanders being helped. It would mark the beginning of an upheaval that might change everything. The whispering crowd parted, merging with the sirens wailing as the paramedics finally hoisted Mr. Sanders onto a stretcher. I felt an odd sense of connection to that man, him lying there, as I internalized my own fears. Would I be remembered only in moments of crisis? Would my dreams wither in the whispering shadows of uncertainty? "Look!" My father nudged me gently, forcing my attention back to the scene unfolding near the entrance. The millionaire stood, shirt damp with sweat, his hands clenched as he faced the retreating paramedics, a figure of strength now shadowed by frustration. "He needs proper help," Don't let him slip away. His voice carried an intensity that cut through the fog, igniting a spark of hope and drawing everyone in. I could see determination etched on his face, that very spark I had been drawn to earlier, and suddenly I felt compelled to move closer again. Despite my earlier hesitations, I felt anchored to him to that fire within. Before I could fully process my own immediate thoughts, Sylvia moved toward him, striking in her demeanor. "Caleb," she said softly, yet with an authority that pushed back against the panic surging around us. "Breathe. There's nothing more you can do here. We need to wait, Caleb." The name echoed through me, and with it came a sudden, shocking thought. He was more than the millionaire I had idealized in my imagination. He was a man. A man beneath the weight of the world, riddled with secrets, worries, and perhaps even regrets. But what truths were lurking beneath his surface? What burdens had he been carrying that had drawn us into this larger web of fate? When his eyes locked onto mine, a transient moment sparked between us, a shared vulnerability that bridged the distance of strangers caught in chaos. Misguided longing surged within me, battling shame as he seemed to look beyond the facade of my reassurance at my father's side. "Everything will be okay," I called out instinctively, as if my words possessed the power to turn this night around. The moment hung delicately, as if silence had wrapped around all of us in a protective embrace, and in that stillness, something shifted. I could see the tension in Caleb's shoulders steadily ease. Perhaps my small act acknowledged his efforts. Perhaps we were both fighting similar battles in utterly different ways. I resolved then to learn more, to peel back the layers of this life I wanted to grasp, both my dreams and the truths I yearned to reveal. But just as quickly as I felt a glimmer of hope, a bone-chilling scream erupted from somewhere within the crowd. "He wasn't alone!" the voice shouted, piercing through the collective breathing that had just settled again. Eyes turned, including mine, as a figure stumbled into view, disheveled, wild-eyed, and frantic. Panic ignited once more, a relentless wave crashing over us. "He was with someone," she repeated, shaking manic. "He didn't just pass out. We need to find her." In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. The unknown had been ushered in. My heart raced, no longer worried about dreams or revelations about Caleb, but rather the fear of a life gone tragically wrong. Was there another truth, one of loss that now struggled against the rising tide? As Sylvia and Caleb moved toward the distressed woman, casting glances that told of shared understanding but also of hidden fears, a new sense of urgency ignited within me. I had changed, the propelling force of fate resetting my course away from self-discovery toward the chaotic quest to unveil the mysteries that surrounded us all. "Wait," I thought, everything snapping into focus. I had seen Caleb's fierce protectiveness. I had felt the crowd siphoning around us like a whirlpool of emotions. But what if this storm wasn't solely about Mr. Sanders? What if the realization came at an even higher price than I was prepared to pay? I stepped back against the wall, emotions swirling within me as I glimpsed the embers of hope lodged amidst the darkness. My pulse raced with a new fear, something much more threatening lingering just beyond the current chaos. The weight of unnoticed truths was a burden I hadn't yet grasped. And as the desperate cries boomed around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that something infinitely more monumental was crashing upon us, threatening to drag everyone down with it. The air crackled with unease as the woman's desperate cries echoed through the crowd, seemingly feeding off the fear that hung thick in the atmosphere. "We need to find her. She was there." "You don't understand." My heart raced as I turned my attention back to the tumultuous scene. That single scream felt like a harbinger of chaos, unraveling the already frayed threads of our evening. Emily, the frantic woman, showcased a rawness that resonated deep within me, reminding me of how easily lives could intertwine only to be torn apart. Caleb's face morphed from shock to determination in a matter of seconds. "Sylvia! We need to get her!" he shouted, urgency driving his words. I watched as he reached out to Emily, his normally polished exterior stripped bare, revealing the weight of responsibility etched on his features. For a moment, the glimmer I had noticed earlier flickered with a million different hues of resolve. Sylvia, ever the steady anchor, gripped his arm, her demeanor calm in the face of rising turmoil. Take a breath, Caleb. We don't know what's happening yet. The authority in her voice held an unyielding strength, grounding both him and me, even as confusion threatened to cloud my mind. I could feel a strange bond forming between us, the three of us woven together by the chaos of this rich night gone wrong. Do you know her? I whispered, my instinct guiding me toward the depth of their shared history in these perilous moments. The drama unfolding around us faded, my focus narrowing in on their interaction. Caleb's gaze flitted from Sylvia to Emily, and for a heartbeat, I saw a flicker of vulnerability cross his face. He wasn't just a millionaire. He was a man whose heart beat in sync with others' pain. No, but if she's in trouble, we can't back down. She's not just a stranger, she's part of this. I wanted to believe that somehow this was still about Mr. Sanders, this spiraling dilemma that weighed heavily on our chests. But more than that, it was about silencing the panic that thrummed just beneath our skin. I felt like I was part of this unfolding narrative, pulled deeper into an emotional abyss. In the midst of the crowd, shades of worry painted the faces around us. Yet within that din, moments of surprising courage began to emerge. A man stepped forward, displacing the crowd, his eyes aflame with purpose. I saw her. She was wearing a blue dress. She went that way. He pointed down a side alley where shadows danced, shrouding whatever lay beyond. Caleb's determination surged. He pulled away from Sylvia before she could protest. We can't waste time. His voice resonated with urgency, and before I could comprehend his departure, he had bounded into the darkness, the echo of his footsteps swallowed by the night. In that moment, a troubling feeling coursed through me, a mix of fear for his safety and a strange yearning to follow him into the unknown. I glanced at Sylvia, whose expression had shifted to one of resolve, brushing her flowing hair behind her ear, ready to pursue him. Let's go! Her voice pulled me back to reality. We can't let him face this alone. A gnawing sensation weighed in my stomach, mingling with my sense of solidarity. I didn't hesitate. I followed Sylvia, stepping through an invisible threshold that led us away from our fears into uncertainty. The darkness appeared less foreboding with every step I took. As we reached the alley, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not merely searching for a woman but were on the precipice of discovering truths that demanded to be unearthed. The vacillating emotions between a shock, fear, and a longing for connection stirred restlessly within. Then, just as we rounded a corner, I halted, taken aback by the sight before us. Caleb stood in front of a woman dressed in blue, trembling and visibly shaken. The moonlight painted her face in fractured shadows, revealing tears that streaked down her cheeks, glistening like shattered glass. I sensed Sylvia moving beside me, her hand resting on my back, acknowledged the horror that unfurled before us. It's okay, she whispered softly, as if trying to conjure a comfort that felt unreachable. In that moment, the unspeakable collision of lives and fears became clear. The woman, now holding on to Caleb with a grip that felt desperate, turned her eyes to meet mine. I could see the flicker of recognition within her gaze, yet as the night pressed in on us, the sense of impending doom coiled tighter. Panic swirled like a tempest, and the weight of their shared connection screamed of something I could not fully comprehend. What are you doing here? She gasped, her voice thick with raw emotion, and in that question lay all my fears. The revelation of painful truths danced just beyond my grasp. You weren't supposed to be here, either were you. Caleb shot back, urgency filling every word. What happened? We need to get you out of this. But what was the this that loomed dangerously heavy? What had woven our lives into this oppressive fabric of chaos and connection? As the darkness began to close in again around us, pressing weighty uncertainty onto my chest, I realized that no matter how fast we ran, there were revelations that could not be outrun, nor could we anticipate the repercussions of the storm that was brewing just beneath the surface. My heart pounded as shadows intensified, and feelings of helplessness roared forward. I was on the brink of discovering something monumental and unveiling that could change us forever, and with a dawning sense of dread, I understood that the real storm was just beginning. The tremors of the woman's whispered panic sent shivers through my bones, mingling with the weight of her unexpected presence. Though the moonlight pierced the veil of night, it could not dispel the gathering storm of emotions that crackled in the air. I felt exposed, as if the night held its breath, waiting for the tapestry of our lives to unravel further. Caleb's voice, strained and urgent, sprang forth again. "Tell me what to do, Emily. We need a plan." His hands gripped her shoulders, steady but fraught with the tension of unsaid words and unasked questions. The connection between them rippled like an echo, urgent and unyielding. What lay behind that word plan? What haunted look lurked behind the tear streaks on Emily's cheeks? Each moment intensified my unease, a cocktail of confusion and burgeoning fear. I was drawn into the orbit of their shared reality, witnessing something tragic yet extraordinary unfold just beyond the boundaries of my understanding. Sylvia stepped forward, embodying an unnerving calm even as our collective pulse quickened. "We need to get her somewhere safe," she said, shooting glances up and down the alley, as if the shadows themselves harbored ill intent. "But we can't linger here." "Emily, what happened?" The woman's gaze flickered back to Sylvia, desperation etched across her features. "I saw something." "A deal," she trailed off, her voice breaking with vulnerability. "They were talking about you, Caleb. They know you're here, and it's dangerous." The last word hung in the air like a haunting melody, familiar yet dissonant. I had known danger had no boundaries, but this felt personal. My heart raced, caught between the pull of that hidden world and my own desire for safety and normalcy. Lives intersecting, destinies entangled, a chaotic mess that held the potential to devastate us all. "Who knows?" Caleb demanded, grounding himself with an uncharacteristic tenacity. The flashes of his previously carefree demeanor now were stripped away, revealing something raw and human beneath. Emily drew a shuddering breath, her hands fluttering, as though she were standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into the abyss. "I don't know all the details, but I heard them mentioning you and something else." "Something huge, Caleb. They're going to expose." A sudden noise echoed from the alleyway behind Ushivi, footsteps, low voices. My heart plummeted, the threat edging ever closer. There was no longer room for hesitation. Vulnerability had transformed into an incomprehensible charge of adrenaline. "Go! We need to move!" Sylvia's voice jolted me into action, adrenaline surging as she grabbed Emily's arm, urging her forward. I fell in beside them, heart hammering against my ribs like a frantic drum. Caleb took one last glance down the alley, his eyes narrowing with resolve. "Well, figure this out together," he said, his tone stealing against the encroaching fear. But I could see the flicker of uncertainty lurking beneath his bravado. Together, we darted into the shadowed embrace of a side street, uncertainty nourishing the roots of a burgeoning camaraderie forged in peril. As we turned a corner, the sound of voices and pounding footsteps followed us like a dark prophecy. The four of us stumbled into a small square, washed in dim light from an embankment of flickering street lamps. The air tingled with energy, but now the threats sprinkled around us painted each face with anxiety. A quick look at Emily told me she was no longer simply shaken, she was caught in a vortex that threatened to consume everyone around her, and I yearned to understand the full breadth of it. Is there somewhere we can hide?" Sylvia asked, scanning our surroundings, her instincts sharp. I felt her anxiety bleed into me, and an overwhelming need to protect encompassed my heart. This moment was far beyond a party turned chaotic. It was a convergence of revelations that formed a delicate web around us, each strand threatening to snap. Emily nodded, visibly gathering herself despite the shock that still clung to her like a second skin. "There's a cafe nearby. It's open late. And we can slip inside," she managed, her voice steadier than a moment ago. "But they'll be looking for meth and we need to be prepared," Caleb asserted, cloaking himself in the mantle of duty. I saw how he transformed into a leader before my eyes, that inherent wisdom ignited by the crossroads of anxiety and impending danger. "Tell us about them," I urged, my voice tremulous but resolute. The air pulsed with fear and inexplicable hope. Perhaps within her revelation lay the truth that could either tether us together or fractal our fragile bonds. She hesitated, glancing back as if wary of unseen eyes watching from the corners of darkness, then finally locked her gaze with mine. "They're from a corporation I used to work for. They dug deep into projects that hold." She paused, drawing shuddering breaths. "They hold secrets that could destroy lives, Caleb. Yours is just the tip of the iceberg. A heaviness settled in the pit of my stomach, a foreshadowing of the storm brewing around us. As we stood on the precipice of action, another realization gripped me: our lives could change, irrevocably, regardless of how fast we ran or how far we fled. Before I could process the multitude of emotions swirling within, Caleb's phone buzzed insistently in his pocket, pulling us away from the weight of Emily's confession. He fished it out, brows furrowing as he read the screen. I felt my breath hitch as I watched the color drain from his face. He looked up, his eyes wide with realization, a storm brewing behind his gaze. "They've found me," he whispered, heart pounding out an unsteady rhythm. "We need to go now." The world around me narrowed. The comfort of connections felt like brittle glass as the storm I feared loomed larger. In that moment, all thoughts of safety shattered, and I realized with gut-wrenching clarity that the true enemy wasn't the unknown forces searching for us, it was the past rising to claim us, and its grip would tighten as we stepped into the abyss. The cacophony of danger surged closer, and audibly, I felt the sound of our time running out. As we hurried through the narrow streets, the air buzzed with an electric urgency. Every neon flicker and distant laugh felt like a cruel jest against the turmoil that gripped us. The cafe loomed ahead, its soft, golden glow promising refuge, but I couldn't shake the weight of uncertainty that settled in my chest. Caleb's fingers brushed mine as we raced, a fleeting connection that sent a rush of warmth through me, illuminating the chaos swirling in our paths. I locked eyes with him for just a moment, a silent question exchanged within that brief glance. Did he feel the unseen tether connecting our fates? As we entered the cafe, the comforting clamor of clinking cups and murmured conversations enveloped us, but even here, the outside world intruded. I could see the cafe attendant's curious gaze track Emily's tear-streaked cheeks, the worry written plainly across her face. The young woman darted down the aisle, slipping us into a corner booth shadowed by warm hues and half-hearted romantic decorations. Once settled, the weight of our impending reality hit hard. Caleb leaned closer, stealing glances out the window. "They might not find us here, but we can't stay long. Tell us everything, Emily." His voice, usually a soothing melody, had taken on a harsh edge, all softness stripped away by fear. Her hands trembled slightly as she wiped her cheeks. I overheard them discussing plans to erase records, certain people who posed threats. I didn't want to believe it at first, but they were ruthless. As she spoke, the shadows deepened around her, her fear forming an aura of vulnerability that made my heart ache. "They're going to eliminate anyone who knows. You included, Caleb," she continued, her voice dipping beneath the surface of acceptance and into despair. "And I thought I was safe, but they found me." A wave of nausea rolled through me. The threads of a life I'd only begun to understand were tangled with danger, swallowing any distinction between right and wrong. "What can we do?" I managed to ask. The sound of my own voice surprised me. It felt inconsequential amidst the gravity of the moment. "The information I have, it's crucial. If we just get it to someone who can help." She paused, glancing around the cafe as her eyes darkened with realization. "But I can't just walk out those doors. They'll know where to find me." As I processed this, a man walked in, clad in an expensive suit that emanated an air of authority. The instant he entered, an unsettling familiarity crept through me, a memory from a dream, a fleeting image that sent shivers racing up my spine. He scanned the room, eyes brief but piercing, laced with intent. My breath caught as he lingered a moment too long on our table. "Emily," I blurted, hastily pushing back my seat. "We have to leave. Now." Caleb was up instantly, his instinct to protect kicking in. "But we can't leave without a plan," he insisted, his voice laced with an intensity that felt both reassuring and terrifying. "They'll figure it out," she snapped, a surge of determination washing over her fear. "There's a back exit. If we slip through." "No," Caleb interrupted fiercely, frustration simmering just under the surface. "We can't just run. We have to think." Tension crackled between them, and I felt like a bystander in an unfolding war of wills. I wanted to step in, to soothe both their fears, but the weight of urgency outweighed my instincts to pacify. "Caleb," I whispered, gently resting my hand on his arm. "What if Emily's right? What if we can't afford to stay? We need to keep moving. His breath released slowly, his gaze shifting between us, torn between the impulse to protect and the fear of losing all control. Okay, but we need to act smart, not out of panic. In that moment, the cafe seemed to recede in favor of our frayed emotions, threads of hope twisted with a sense of reckless urgency. Emily's resolve ignited something within me, a spark of recognition that, together, we might actually stand a chance against an unseen enemy weaving a dark pall over our lives. Wait, I said abruptly, an idea forming in my mind. What if we use your connections? Emily? To someone who knows someone who can help us from the outside. Her eyes flickered with possibility, and I could see the gears turning. I might be able to reach out to an old contact, she said hesitantly. But what if they're involved? What if this is all a setup? Better than nothing, Caleb interjected, his gaze fierce. We're running out of time. We have to take that risk. But as the words left his mouth, the cafe door pushed open wider, and the man in the expensive suit stepped inside, his demeanor radiating a menacing assurance. We had a feeling you'd be here, he announced, his tone deceptively calm. Emily, it's time to come with me. My heart dropped, a sudden weight pressing on my chest as realizations slammed into me. There was nowhere left to hide, and the last flickers of hope we harbored flickered unsteadily on the brink of extinction. We were ensnared in a web of deceit, double-crossing shadows unfurling around us, ready to seize every last fragment of trust. The truth hung in the air. The consequences of the choices we were about to make would echo far beyond this moment. And as I braced myself for the chaos that was about to ensue, I understood that not just our lives, but our very identities teetered on the edge of revelation. Caleb stood protectively in front of Emily, his body tense as the man approached, the temperature in the cafe suddenly plummeting. Uncertainty crackled around us like static electricity, heightening my senses and rooting me to my seat. I could feel Emily's erratic heartbeat, fear radiating from her, a fragile thread that hung perilously between us and our unthinkable fate. Who are you? Caleb demanded, his voice deceptively steady, but a faint tremor betrayed the turmoil within. The man's lips curled into a predatory smile. You can call me Marcus. I represent interests that your little group would rather keep hidden. He leaned closer, eyes locking onto Emily's. You shouldn't have come here. You've put everyone at risk. Risk? Emily spat, her facade of composure crumbling further. You're the one who should be afraid. I have information that will cost you dearly if you don't come with me right now, he interrupted, his voice a silky threat. You think you can just run? Not if I have anything to say about it. The desperation in Emily's eyes ignited something raw within me. I'd been drifting between anger and fear, but now, the enormity of the moment pulled me into a spiraling reverie. This was more than a mere confrontation. It felt like a reckoning, a clash between the life we wished for and the grim reality that threatened to consume us. But even in this horror, small flickers of resolve began to bubble beneath my ribs. We're not going anywhere with you, I found myself saying. You're not in charge here. Marcus paused, surprise flashing across his face, momentarily thrown off his calculated path by my defiance. I could see the momentum shift, and in that small window, I felt the commencement of a desperate plan formulating in the back of my mind. Back off, Caleb warned, stepping closer to me and Emily, his determination like a shield. We will find a way out of this together. Marcus chuckled, a low, chilling sound that sent a shiver crawling along my spine. You think you're united, but you're merely delaying the inevitable. Choices have consequences, and trust me, I know how to extract what I need. As he raised an eyebrow, I recalled the unusual football game I attended months ago, where Caleb had first introduced me to Emily, her laughter and magnetic energy effortlessly drawing me in. I had come to regard them as family, both exuding a fierce loyalty that seemed to form an unbreakable bond. The swirling chaos outside the cafe had led us down a path we could have never envisioned. I cleared my throat, finding some semblance of strength. Maybe you should consider this. Keeping Emily in line won't save you from the people who are truly after your secrets. This isn't just about her, it's about what you think you want to control. His smile wavered, irritation exposing a flicker of vulnerability. You don't understand the forces at play here. Then enlighten me. I challenged, caught in the storm of emotions that ignited within me, a rush of anger directed toward this man who would threaten the lives of those I cared for. The cafe felt as though it were shrinking around us, the warm illumination giving way to encroaching shadows. Amateurs, Marcus scoffed contemptuously, but in that moment of distraction, I caught a glimpse of the fears underlying his bravado, a man fighting to maintain control over a situation spiraling beyond him. Emily! I called, urgency bleeding into my voice. Do you still have that flash drive? The one with the information? She blinked, realization flickering like a light bulb igniting in her eyes as she subtly nodded. Listen, I said, voice firm and unwavering. If we can get that to someone outside and away from him, we have a fighting chance. Underestimating me was your first mistake, Marcus sneered. Underestimating people who care enough to fight back? That will be your downfall, I shot back, emboldened by the spark of shared adrenaline and the bond of our fragile alliance. Caleb, I whispered urgently, willing him to understand. If I can somehow distract him, can you get Emily out through the back? He responded with an imperceptible nod, and the silent understanding that passed between us cemented our newly forged plan. It was reckless and defied logic, but the fire of desperation burned brightly within us. Enough of this! Marcus scoffed, advancing toward Emily and shattering my moment of clarity. Instinctively, I surged forward, intercepting him as his hand reached for her. Step back! I shouted, my heart pounding like a war drum. His reaction was swift enough that I hadn't anticipated the iron grip that seized my arm. The world shifted around us, and before I could think, I found myself very much in his grasp, held firmly like a pawn in a game I barely understood. In the confusion, I saw Caleb spring into action, his instincts honed from years of hardship. He shoved through the narrow aisle, darting toward Emily's side, but before he reached her, the atmosphere crackled like a live wire. A muffled explosion resonated from outside, rattling the cafe's glass. Patrons screamed, and chaos erupted as people scrambled for exit doors. Emily seized the moment. Now! She shouted, her fear transformed into fierce determination. With all the adrenaline coursing through me, I turned to follow her eyes. The back exit. The mob of terrified patrons offered our escape. Caleb, fueled by urgency and adrenaline, tugged Emily and rushed towards the opening as I yanked free from Marcus' grasp. But just before we reached freedom, the stunned recognition slowly seeped into Marcus' eyes, and then he turned, shouting orders that would brook no disobedience. The storm outside raged, and our quick, desperate actions collided with fate's capricious hand. The last thing I heard before careening into the darkened alley was Marcus' chilling promise reverberating through the din, a threat cloaked in sinister calm that whispered a new reality into existence. This isn't over, Emily. You'll regret crossing me. The weight of the world bore down upon me as we surged into the night, our hearts pounding, fear and hope intertwining, but I felt the ever-present reality that the real challenge had only just begun. Trust, betrayal, and the quest for survival loomed over us like a dark cloud, and I knew that the choices ahead would resonate beyond the chaos of the night. But for now, in this moment filled with fleeting shadows, one question blared through my mind like the throbbing pulse of impending despair. What was waiting for us in the uncertainty that stretched violently before us, and would we ever find solace again? The rain poured down hard, drenching us as we sprinted into the chaos just beyond the cafe. Each droplet felt like a sharp reminder of how easily this night had unraveled. What had started as a celebration now morphed into frantic survival. I could taste fear in the air, mingled with rain and adrenaline, the scent of something electric hovering just out of reach. Keep moving! Caleb shouted, leading the way as we darted through alley after alley, our breath escaping in harsh bursts through tight throats, hearts pounding with a symphony of dread and determination. Emily was right beside me, her presence grounding my racing thoughts, lending a strength I didn't know I had. As we turned another corner, I spotted a deserted garage, its door half open, a hell of a hiding spot in a night that felt increasingly unpredictable. In here, I urged, pushing us towards the small haven, the wooden beams offering some shelter from the rain yet not quite enough from the storm brewing within us. Inside, we huddled close together, the air thick with urgency. Caleb's eyes burned bright, a fierce determination ignited as he leaned against the wall, maintaining a watchful stance. "We can't stay here for long," he said, glancing toward Emily. "Can you contact your friend? We need that flash drive to make it to someone who can help." Emily shook her head, panic flickering across her features. "I can try, but if they're tracking me, they might already know." Her voice trembled, revealing depths of fear I hadn't fully grasped until now. There was weight in her eyes as memories collided, painful revelations that bound us closer than even the fraying strands of hope. "We can't let them win," I said softly, stepping close enough for her to feel my warmth. "I won't let you face them alone." The sheer vulnerability in her eyes called to me, igniting an unshakable promise in my heart. We were no longer alone in our struggle, our fates intertwined and empowered by our shared will to fight back. The flicker of resolve ignited in Caleb's gaze morphed into something determined and fierce. "Get that flash drive ready," he instructed Emily, confidence reverberating in his tone as if rallying troops for war. "They'll have a plan if I can figure out where Marcus is lurking out there." Silence draped over us like a heavy blanket, broken only by the rhythmic tapping of rain against the roof. I could feel the pulse of the night with each heartbeat, throbbing with the promise of danger yet welcoming the unknown. Each drop weighed heavily on our fears but also offered a sense of renewal, clean and undiluted, like the hope we were clinging to. Then suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed, heavy and purposeful, somewhere beyond the fragile barrier separating us from the outside world. My heart plummeted, instinct urging me toward survival. "We need to move," I whispered urgently. Just as I turned to Caleb and Emily, we caught a glimpse of a figure silhouetted against the rain. "There he is," Caleb muttered, forehead creasing in focus. "That's Marcus." The air thickened with palpable tension as I peered out through a crack in the wooden frame. I spotted the man's shadow stalking through the alley. Each presence I felt outside mirrored my own, fleeing and hunted, yet undeniably fierce. Our battle wasn't against a monster, it was against the adversities that had woven themselves into our lives. "Get ready," I whispered again, desperation bubbling dangerously low. "He won't stop until he gets the information." My mind whirled. Should I try to confront him, or remain hidden? The stakes rose higher as our world was set ablaze with treacherous uncertainties. Just as I opened my mouth to voice my thoughts, the garage door creaked, startling into action. Caleb moved without hesitation, suddenly pushing me behind him as he stepped forward, posture wide and deliberate. "What do you want, Marcus?" His voice echoed with a mixture of defiance and protection, but I could see the tension in his jaw tighten, a reminder of the emotions boiling beneath the surface. A twisted smile crept onto Marcus' face, as if he thrived on our fear. "I didn't expect you'd be foolish enough to run," he taunted, confidence oozing from him like a flame threatening to engulf us all. "But darling, you don't know what you're up against. It's not just about you, this is much bigger than any of us." With a defiant brightness in her eyes, Emily stepped forward. "I'm not afraid of you, Marcus. You've built your reign on intimidation and deceit, but you don't own me." The storm outside howled in agreement, amplifying the charge of her words against the chaos that churned around us. I could feel the threads of courage weaving tighter, wrapping around us like armor, forging a bond against the encroaching darkness. His eyes narrowed, the moment electric as it veered from threat to contempt and back again. "Oh, sweet Emily. You think you have choices?" he sneered. "You wield the flash drive like a weapon, yet don't realize it only deepens your despair." "But you're wrong," Caleb interjected, standing at Emily's side as if creating a protective shield around her. "What you don't realize is how powerful we are together. You may hold the power of deceit, but we'll figure a way out of this." "What a noble sentiment," Marcus retorted, mocking us, but behind his bravado was a flicker of doubt. I seized on that doubt, on the glimmers of hope still swirling around us like echoes of forgotten truths. "Caleb." I turned my gaze toward him, a bold idea sparking. "What if we can leverage that fear he has? Maybe we can turn this situation around." "Turn it? You think that's possible?" Caleb shot back, incredulity lighting his voice. But deep down, I sensed the challenge rattling beneath his usual resolve, an ember of possibility igniting within him. Before the dialogue could escalate, the storm outside unleashed its fury, a sudden rush of wind rattling the doors, shaking the layers of fear that had crept up our backs. I took a breath, drawing from the fury of the tempest as I thought of a plan, an idea rippling on the edge of fledgling intimacy forged in turmoil. "Emily, send the flash drive to someone," I urged her, a lightning bolt of clarity striking through me. "Someone who can expose his secrets, the truth that can set us free." "No!" Marcus interjected, desperation edged with fury in his voice. "You'd be making a dangerous pact." But the realization struck, the fragile layers of our tragedies intertwining like threads of fate. Emily wasn't just our salvation. She was the very key to rebuilding the lives we had resigned ourselves to losing. "Just show us your hand," Caleb challenged Marcus. "Expose yourself. Your truth is what keeps you in power, yet you want to silence ours." In the suspended moment, the chaos outside felt like a distant echo. The storm was merely a backdrop against the ferociously awakening strength between us. Then it dawned on me. Marcus believed in his reign of fear, not realizing that together, we could shatter his illusions of control. The garage door cracked, heavy footsteps beyond our door echoed like an impending storm, pursuers closing in. "Make your choice, Emily," I said. "This is your moment. You're the one with the power now." The weight of uncertainty infused the air, and I could see the fight igniting beneath her resolve, the flames of truth sparking like fireworks within her. In that charged silence, I realized that we all stood at the edge, on the brink of a revelation more powerful than fear. And as the storm continued to rage, casting gusts that rattled the structure around us, I saw Emily breathe deeply, an anchor rising from the depths of her vulnerability. "I will no longer be afraid," she declared, gazing at Marcus with fierce determination. In that decisive moment, the door flung wide open, tearing apart the shroud of secrecy. Fear, doubt, power all collapsed beneath the surging tide of truth flooding through this tempest. Hope surged like water breaking against rock. I held my breath, and for once, I felt buoyed by something powerful, something genuine. And beneath the storm, I knew this wasn't merely a battle for survival. We were igniting a revolution against every unpredictable storm that challenged us along the way. The storm, like life, wouldn't relent. But as the rain fell incessantly on the ground, a quiet comfort seeped through. The truth would light our path ahead, steady and unwavering. We stood together in it, ready to face whatever would come next. Because in that moment of clarity, we understood. We would rise, weather the storm, and emerge stronger no matter the cost. And as I looked into Emily's fierce eyes, a promise formed in my heart, a whisper of confirmation lingering as the bombastic storm raged around us. We would live to tell our tale, not just of survival, but of the strength that could rise against the fiercest of tempests. In the end, it wasn't merely about the flash drive. It was about the lives we would reclaim together. With one final surge, we stepped into the night, as one. We were ready to face the dawn.